The Galactic Council sat in somber silence, their luminescent forms reflecting the weight of the crisis at hand. Two of the most dominant powers in the galaxy, the Zorn Collective and the Kitha Dominion, had reached a deadlock in their relentless war. Their advanced technologies, plasma weapons, energy shields, and AI-driven fleets, were too evenly matched, resulting in a brutal stalemate that had already devastated countless systems. Neutral planets trembled at the prospect of becoming collateral damage. In their desperation, the Council turned to a species known for its unpredictability: humans. Earth, a relatively insignificant planet on the galactic stage, was rumored to have a knack for innovation and a tendency for chaotic problem-solving. The idea of involving humans was controversial. Many counselors viewed them as primitive bipeds with limited understanding of true technological sophistication. Yet their reputation for perseverance and unorthodox methods made them the Council's last hope for mediating peace, or tipping the scales. Captain Sarah Hale was chosen as humanity's representative. A seasoned military officer with a reputation for unflinching resolve, Sarah embodied the best and most fearsome traits of her species. She arrived at the Galactic Council's high chamber aboard a modest transport ship, accompanied by a small team and a mysterious cargo. The aliens assembled were quick to dismiss her. To them, she was an anomaly, a curiosity wrapped in primitive armor. "Captain Hale, Earth has been invited as a neutral party to provide insight," announced a counselor, his voice dripping with condescension. "We expect your demonstration to be entertaining." Sarah's sharp eyes scanned the room, her presence commanding despite her species' underdog status. "You didn't invite us for entertainment," she replied. "You invited us because your war has stagnated, and you don't have a solution. We do." Her confidence sent ripples through the chamber, though most aliens still dismissed her claims. They expected fireworks, perhaps some crude display of human ingenuity. Instead, Sarah unveiled the weapon she had brought with her, a minigun. The device was bulky, mechanical, and completely alien to the sleek, energy-based technology of the galactic powers. It looked, quite frankly, like a relic of a bygone era. "This," she said, patting the minigun, "is humanity's answer to your stalemate." The room erupted in laughter. The Kitha representative, General XRYTH, sneered, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "That? A relic of kinetic warfare? You expect us to believe this contraption can make any difference?" Sarah didn't flinch. "You'll believe it when you see it." The Council reluctantly agreed to a live demonstration, though their expectations were low. After all, how could a species still reliant on projectiles possibly understand the complexities of modern galactic warfare? As preparations were made, murmurs of doubt and derision filled the air. To the aliens, humans were little more than a curious footnote in the grand tapestry of the universe. But Sarah wasn't here to earn their approval. She was here to prove a point. The demonstration began in a designated testing arena, a massive space outfitted with holographic defenses, simulated shields, and armored targets modeled after the Zorn and Kitha technologies. Sarah stood beside her minigun, her expression unreadable as the crowd watched with a mix of skepticism and amusement. She activated the weapon with a low hum, the barrels spinning to life. What followed was unlike anything the Council had ever witnessed. The minigun roared to life, unleashing a torrent of high-velocity projectiles that tore through the simulated defenses with devastating efficiency. Energy shields, designed to repel plasma and disrupt lasers, crumbled under the relentless assault. Armor meant to withstand advanced weaponry was shredded in seconds. The sheer volume of fire was overwhelming, a mechanical symphony of destruction that left the arena in ruins. Silence fell over the chamber as the aliens processed what they had just seen. Sarah stepped back from the smoking weapon, her calm demeanor in stark contrast to the chaos she had unleashed. "You call us primitive," she said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "But sometimes simplicity is the deadliest weapon of all." For the first time, the Galactic Council began to see humans in a different light. Not as primitive, but as unpredictable. Dangerous. Capable of redefining the rules of warfare. And they had no idea what Sarah had planned next. The chamber was filled with a tense silence as the demonstration concluded. For a species used to energy-based weaponry, the sheer rawness of the minigun was a shock to their sensibilities. Sarah's calm confidence in the aftermath only heightened the unease in the room. Whispers spread like wildfire among the assembled counselors and spectators, their disbelief warring with the undeniable destruction they had just witnessed. General XRYTH, however, refused to back down. His pride, already wounded by humanity's display, demanded retribution. With a mocking laugh, he stepped forward, his massive frame casting an imposing shadow. An impressive display, he sneered, his tone laced with disdain. But simulations are a poor substitute for real combat. Your toy wouldn't last a minute against true Kitha engineering. Sarah didn't blink. Care to test that theory? The challenge hung in the air, and XRYTH took the bait. A mock skirmish was hastily arranged, meant to prove the superiority of alien technology and put humanity's primitive weapon in its place. XRYTH's team brought their most advanced war droids into the arena, sleek machines equipped with plasma cannons, adaptive shields, and combat algorithms designed to anticipate and neutralize threats. The skirmish began with an air of confident superiority on XRYTH's part. His droids moved with precision, their plasma cannons charging as they closed in on Sarah's position. But Sarah didn't flinch. She stood firm, her hands steady on the minigun's controls. When she pulled the trigger, the roar of the weapon drowned out everything else. Bullets ripped through the air in a relentless stream, each one finding its mark. The adaptive shields that had been the pride of Kitha engineering faltered almost immediately under the unrelenting assault. The plasma cannons, powerful but slow to charge, never had a chance to fire. The war droids crumpled under the barrage, their advanced alloys no match for the sheer kinetic force of the bullets. The battle was over in seconds, and the silence that followed was deafening. XRYTH's face, or what could be interpreted as his face, was a mixture of rage and disbelief. His pride had been shattered as thoroughly as his droids. Sarah stepped forward, her expression neutral but her voice cutting. Sometimes, the best strategy isn't elegance. It's overwhelming force. The room erupted, not with laughter this time, but with a mixture of fear and awe. The counselors, who had once dismissed humanity as a primitive curiosity, now saw them as a dangerous wildcard. Conversations buzzed around the chamber, and the term, space orcs, began to take root. To the aliens, humanity wasn't just a new player on the galactic stage. They were an unpredictable force capable of upending centuries of tradition and strategy. As the council debated the implications, Sarah took a moment to assess the reactions around her. Some faces showed fear, others a grudging respect. But one thing was clear: no one in the room could ignore what they had seen. The minigun, with its simplicity and brutal efficiency, had done more than win a skirmish. It had rewritten the rules of engagement. XRYTH, nursing his bruised ego, tried to regain some semblance of authority. "This changes nothing," he growled. "Your weapon may be effective against droids, but against living soldiers it will fail." Sarah met his gaze, her voice steady. "Would you like to find out?" The council intervened before the challenge could escalate further, but the damage to XRYTH's reputation was done. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, the balance of power had shifted, not through diplomacy or technological advancement, but through the sheer audacity of one human and her weapon. The aftermath of the demonstration was chaotic. Representatives from various factions approached Sarah, their initial disdain replaced by tentative respect. Offers of alliances and trade flooded in, each one more desperate than the last. But Sarah wasn't interested in deals. She had come to prove a point, and she had done so with resounding success. As she left the chamber, whispers followed her. The term, space orcs, spread beyond the council, becoming a badge of both fear and fascination. Humanity had made its mark, not as a mediator or a peaceful participant, but as a force to be reckoned with. And Sarah Hale, with her unyielding resolve and devastating weapon, had ensured that the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The fallout from the demonstration spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had anticipated. Within days, reports of the human weapon, dubbed the Machine of Chaos, became the subject of hushed conversations in military councils, scientific gatherings, and back-alley negotiations. The Galactic Council, still reeling from the sheer audacity of what they had witnessed, faced an entirely new reality. The humans, once considered irrelevant, were now a species that demanded careful attention and, more importantly, respect. For the weaker factions scattered across the galaxy, humanity's display wasn't just impressive, it was a lifeline. Minor powers and neutral planets had spent centuries living under the shadow of dominant empires like the Zorn and Kitha. The promise of Earth's brutal efficiency offered something these smaller factions had never possessed: a chance to level the playing field. Requests for alliances and trade agreements flooded Earth's diplomatic channels, all seeking access to human weapons and expertise. Sarah, however, was acutely aware of the dangers these offers represented. She had seen this kind of desperation before, and she knew that humanity's reputation as space orcs came with strings attached. The galaxy didn't just admire Earth's ingenuity, they feared it. Fear, as she had learned through countless battles, was a dangerous currency. Misused, it could spiral into chaos. The Galactic Council found itself split. The Zorn, whose pride had been wounded by the effectiveness of such a primitive weapon, sought to distance themselves from the humans. They argued that Earth's methods were barbaric, a step backward in the evolution of warfare. The Kitha, despite their initial skepticism, saw the potential. For General XRYTH, who had endured the humiliation of Sarah's demonstration, the choice was simple: either align with the humans or risk being on the receiving end of their unrelenting firepower. Sarah wasn't oblivious to the politics at play. She leveraged the Council's divided stance to humanity's advantage, offering neither allegiance nor submission. Instead, she positioned Earth as a mediator, not through diplomacy, but through force. "You wanted our perspective," she reminded them. "Now you have it. This isn't about technology. It's about survival. And if survival means being called barbaric, so be it." Her words carried weight, and the Council couldn't ignore them. Humanity's brutal pragmatism had uncovered a truth that the galactic powers had long ignored: their wars, though advanced and calculated, had become so entrenched in protocol and tradition that they had lost the ability to innovate. The minigun wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of unrelenting adaptation, a reminder that simplicity could outmatch even the most sophisticated systems. The Kitha were the first to act. They approached Sarah with a proposition: a temporary alliance. In exchange for access to Earth's kinetic weaponry, they offered resources and technology that would elevate humanity's standing in the galaxy. Sarah didn't commit immediately. She understood the weight of her decisions, not just for Earth, but for the balance of power across the stars. Trust, she knew, was in short supply, and an alliance with the Kitha could easily make Earth a target for their enemies. As negotiations unfolded, another unexpected outcome began to emerge. Smaller factions, inspired by Earth's audacity, began adopting human tactics. They abandoned energy weapons in favor of kinetic designs, retrofitting their fleets and ground forces with crude but effective modifications. What had started as a single demonstration evolved into a revolution in galactic warfare. The term, human strategy, became synonymous with unpredictability and overwhelming force. The Zorn, watching this shift with growing unease, found themselves at a crossroads. Refusing to adapt would mean falling behind in a galaxy that was rapidly changing. But accepting humanity's influence meant acknowledging their own arrogance, and opening themselves to the very methods they had dismissed as primitive. Their indecision left them vulnerable, and Sarah wasn't about to let the opportunity pass. Using her position as the galaxy's newfound wildcard, Sarah proposed an unprecedented ceasefire between the Zorn and Kitha. The offer wasn't made out of altruism. She knew that a unified front was necessary for what lay ahead. "This isn't about your pride or your traditions," she told the Council. "This is about survival. You're not fighting each other anymore. You're fighting the inevitability of change." Her proposal was met with skepticism, but the fear of being left behind ultimately forced the Council's hand. A fragile truce was established, brokered not through diplomacy, but through the looming threat of human intervention. The minigun, crude and chaotic, had become a symbol of something much larger: humanity's ability to adapt, to challenge convention, and to force even the most entrenched powers to reconsider their ways. As Sarah departed the council chamber, she knew the war wasn't truly over. The galaxy had been given a glimpse of what humanity could offer, and it wouldn't take long for others to come knocking. Some would seek alliances. Others would seek to eliminate the perceived threat. But one thing was certain: humanity was no longer a mere footnote in galactic history. They were a force to be reckoned with, and their story was only just beginning. The tenuous ceasefire between the Zorn and Kitha was barely a few days old when a new and far more terrifying revelation disrupted the fragile peace. Reports began trickling in from fringe systems about entire colonies going silent, their populations vanishing without a trace. These weren't isolated incidents. The reports described the same pattern: no distress signals, no evidence of battle, only eerie silence. The Galactic Council initially dismissed the rumors as exaggerations from remote outposts, but as the disappearances grew in scale and proximity, denial was no longer an option. Sarah had just begun strategizing Earth's next steps when the Council summoned her. The air in the chamber was thick with fear and uncertainty. A high-ranking Zorn scientist presented the findings, his voice trembling as he revealed what their long-range probes had discovered. The culprits were the Vorath swarm, a biomechanical species long thought extinct. The Vorath didn't wage war in any traditional sense. They didn't negotiate, didn't discriminate, and didn't stop. They consumed. The Council was paralyzed. Their advanced weaponry, plasma beams, disruptor fields, and energy-based defenses had proven ineffective against the swarm. The Vorath's biomechanical nature rendered them impervious to most energy-based attacks, their forms absorbing and adapting to the very weapons designed to destroy them. The Zorn and Kitha, masters of technological warfare, were facing an enemy that their sophistication couldn't defeat. All eyes turned to Sarah. The Council, which had once viewed humans as little more than an afterthought, now looked to her with desperation. "Your weapons," one counselor began hesitantly. "They rely on kinetics, not energy. Could they work against this threat?" Sarah didn't answer immediately. The weight of the question was immense. Humanity's kinetic weapons had proven effective against shields and advanced armors, but the Vorath were something entirely different. A species that consumed and adapted to everything it encountered wasn't just a military challenge, it was an existential threat. But Sarah's resolve didn't waver. "If there's one thing humanity excels at," she said firmly, "it's finding a way to fight back." She wasted no time. Within hours, Sarah convened a team of human engineers and alien scientists, creating a joint task force dedicated to countering the Vorath. The minigun, which had once been dismissed as a primitive relic, became the blueprint for a new generation of kinetic weaponry. Larger, faster, and deadlier, these weapons were designed not just to destroy, but to overwhelm. Humanity's philosophy of unrelenting force was now the galaxy's best hope. The first test came sooner than expected. A Vorath scout fleet appeared on the edges of a neutral system, its purpose clear: assess and consume. Sarah personally led the response, commanding a fleet equipped with the newly developed kinetic weapons. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Where energy-based weapons had failed, the kinetic onslaught succeeded. The sheer volume of projectiles overwhelmed the Vorath's ability to adapt, ripping through their biomechanical forms and reducing their once unstoppable advance to a smoldering wreckage. The victory was hard-fought but decisive. For the first time, the galaxy had proof that the Vorath could be defeated. Word of the battle spread rapidly, igniting hope among those who had resigned themselves to the swarm's inevitable conquest. But Sarah knew this was only the beginning. The Vorath weren't just a mindless horde, they were a learning entity, and their next assault would be even more formidable. Back in the council chambers, the mood had shifted. Where once there had been fear, there was now cautious optimism. The Zorn and Kitha, despite their long-standing enmity, began to work together, united by the realization that survival required cooperation. The smaller factions, inspired by humanity's success, pledged their resources to the growing alliance. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy wasn't divided by borders and politics. It was united by necessity. Sarah, however, didn't bask in the newfound camaraderie. She was already planning for what came next. The Vorath would adapt to kinetic weapons eventually, and when they did, the galaxy would need another edge. "We don't stop," she told her team. "We don't wait for them to catch up. We stay ahead." Her words became the rallying cry of the Alliance. Factories across the galaxy churned out Earth-inspired weapons and defenses, while research teams worked around the clock to uncover the Vorath's weaknesses. The effort wasn't just about survival. It was about ensuring that when the next battle came, the galaxy wouldn't just survive. It would win. The final scene was one of preparation. Fleets from every corner of the galaxy gathered at a central staging point, their hulls bristling with kinetic weaponry and experimental technology. Sarah stood at the forefront, her presence a symbol of the Alliance's resilience. The Vorath were still out there, an ever-present threat, but the galaxy was no longer afraid. They had found their strength, not in advanced technology or ancient traditions, but in the unyielding determination of a species once dismissed as primitive. Humanity had proven its worth, not through diplomacy or elegance, but through sheer, unrelenting resolve. The galaxy would never forget what it had learned, when faced with the impossible, you call the humans. Because when all else fails, they find a way.